Welcome to the Transition of Changes Mission Podcast Show with your host, King Summers.
And your host, Queen Summers. Good evening. I'm so glad that you could come and join us. And if this is your first visit to Transitional Changes Mission Podcast Show, hopefully you're seated. If not, grab a seat. We welcome you and also all our other listeners out there. Welcome to our show tonight.
We thank you for tuning in to this exciting show where we're going to talk about some happiness, or are you mad? Are you happy at this time about your New Year's and your Christmas? Did you get you an extra gift? And what I'm leading to say, what we're finna talk about is that stimulus check.
And also, we'll be talking about courage, but not just any courage. There are different types of courage, ranging from physical strength and endurance to mental stamina and innovation. Tonight, we're talking about moral courage. Moral courage is the willingness to take a potentially costly moral action simply because it is your duty to do so, or the right thing to do. It is acting in spite of the personal consequences because of the harm that couldn't be prevented or a good provided to others. Moral courage is what turns moral judgment into moral action.
Yes, it do. It's either going to be some good moral or some bad moral. But man, I think what's going on right now is I step out into society, like stopping into some stores, doing my essential family things to do for my family. I see people has been uplifted. A little bit of hope has been going through some people. And that leads me to say we all put our bunions, or maybe to move forward, of being conditioned to think that money is needed. I said that is because where I'm assuming most people before this stimulus check came out was looking kind of worried, looking to have no sense of direction. And it was true to say. I mean, back in December the 31st, there was an eviction. It was an eviction bill that could be extended or not. And that means if it didn't get passed, some people had to worry of being evicted, or how was they going to pay past due bills. Well, at the same time, the government that we stay in this nation was promoting that they've been working on some type of stimulus check for 7 months. 7 months. And we actually started getting some hope around the end of Christmas. Some people was wishing, with the media pumping out what was going, things was getting tight because the holidays was here. A lot of people was in need of food, gifts, the tradition, things that is needed to upkeep the tradition. And a lot of people lack funds to be able to do so. There was a lot of nonprofits, including us, that stepped up to help communities during those times. But at the same time, we had in the back of my mind, what is they going to do about this stimulus check? Well, at one point, they was talking about $2,000, $1,200, and then $600. Time when it got to 600, most people was like, we'll take anything.
Right, but one proposal from former Congressman John Delaney was aimed to help both sides by providing stimulus checks in exchange for getting vaccinated. The goal was to reach a 75% vaccination rate faster, which could save both lives and the U.S. economy by giving people $1,500 stimulus checks in exchange for getting immunized.
For that vaccination, we showed them we got an exciting episode coming up soon, and pay attention. Keep in tune with us. But right now, man, I want to know, are you happy that you got your stimulus check?
Or are you sad that you haven't got your stimulus check, or your stimulus check is still pending in your account? Or are you just at the point where you like, well, whatever, anything is better than nothing?
And yes, my queen, that is a good question now. Where you are at this point, with the variety of people in different situations of receiving a stimulus check and have not received it. 600 is not a lot. Just like we just explained, it is something.
And if you're interested in writing to us about your thoughts or feelings involving the stimulus checks, you can write us at tcmissionspeaks@gmail.com.
But don't be afraid to, because we need that to give people the hope and faith to keep striving on.
Moral courage requires that we rise above the apathy, complacency, hatred, cynicism, and fear-mongering in our political systems, social economic divisions, and cultural religious differences. For parents, it frequently requires us to put aside compelling but momentarily pleasures or comforts in order to set a good example for our children and be the parents we aspire to be. Doing the right thing means listening to our conscience, that quiet voice within. Ignoring that voice can lead to feelings of inadequacy, guilt, and diminished personal integrity. Moral courage requires us to make judgments about what actions or behaviors are supportive of our highest ideas and which ones are destructive. It asks us to recognize our responsibilities and see the consequences of our own actions.
Y'all need to pay attention to Queen Summers, because I hate to see your kids grow up and turn 18 and be like, man, what you do with my $600?
Right.
I remember they gave y'all my money 2 times.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm saying about the last previous show, is that we can step into year 2021 with more knowledge of the mistakes, if we did any, of last year.
And awareness.
Yes, my queen. Sure enough, be aware, because the future is unknown right now. And sometimes that's good. Don't study too much about trying to figure the future out. Like we were stating and explaining throughout all our shows, enjoy the moment. And right now we pray with the help of the government giving you the $600, because with this pandemic, things has changed to a point to where if anybody have a question about the ones that are working and the ones that has been laid off, can't find another job, things has changed. It's not too many job opportunities as it was back as in 2019. With that said, it's least opportunity for you to go out and make independent money. You had people that was out here scrapping. You had people doing independent delivery service, all kind of independent jobs that was taken through this pandemic. And don't make a mistake of the unemployment. The unemployment is just an insurance. Like when you open up a company, you got to have insurance for your employees. That company pays payments to the insurance company to insure their employees. Some states, I think it is 7 states, that backs that insurance claim. And with that said, basically, just to make it short, long story short, that unemployment money is yours. It's not like it's a handout. 100% of unemployment is the ownership of that employer that work. That's why some state says that you have to be employed for 3 months. And think about somebody that has been working for 45 years at a company, 20 years. Things has been wiped out and on the verge of a huge change as far as the employment field go. And as we going through this trial, the government, which I appreciate the help from the government to help you sustain till we get through this huge change.
Well, I mean, I look at it like a lot of people have debt. A lot of people have bills piled up. You know, the $600 is not going to pay every bill that is due or, you know, provide every necessity that you need or you feel like you need right at this moment. But it can help you sustain to not be as, how should we say?
Spendable, shopping.
Right. You know, you thought
like
over the holidays. Right. And you thought over the holidays about all the things that you could have bought. You know, you took time out to self-reflect. You took time out to think about the new goals in the new year. So now that you have the money or you're getting ready to get the money, stick to your inner voice. Stick to that courage, because courage is about doing what you believe needs to be done, not in the absence of fear, but in spite of it. You might feel disinclined to offer a genuine apology out of fear that the other person will reject it. But courage will help you apologize anyway, because it's the right thing to do, out of respect for the one you hurt or offended. Whether they accept your apology or not is their business, not yours. When you fail to apologize, you're carrying the burden of your misdeeds more than the person you've harmed. So courage requires a step outside of your comfort zone. If you have no fear, you don't need courage. But when something you know you have to do makes you feel sick inside, courage is what makes you do that thing anyway.
And yes, to encourage some people to not do no harm to themselves or nobody, Listen and tune in and follow us through this journey of this podcast show. You will hear the struggles of the King Summers and Queen family and struggles of other families. Pray that you hear in a good way of somebody going through something that you might be going through at this time that you think is the end of the world, but it's actually not. When you hear another person's story about going through something that is worse than your situation now, we pray that that could influence you to breathe, take your time out. Send an urgent emergency tcmissionspeaks@gmail.com and explain your situation, because we got contacts that can help you through these rough times. We all know that things has changed, and it is difficult for some to embrace through this change. With the government trying to send supplements to help with your community, with your neighbor, or even family. Some people has not been used to the handout or action, or some has not been used to receiving. Some people has been trained and conditioned to earn, and that's have been taken away with a large variety of people in the nation and across the world of how they are able to earn.
Right. So you take your money, you do what you need to do, and don't be terrified about your choices that you made, because being terrified but going ahead and doing what must be done, that's courage. The one who feels no fear is a fool, and the one who lets fear rule him is a coward.
Yes, my people, I might add on to say that EBT, I remember back in the 80s, the paperback, who remember the paperback food stamps? People used to be embarrassed to go in the grocery store with that stamps and purchase the same T-bone steak that the next person got. But when you see in the grocery store, don't look down on that person using the EBT. It is huge now. In fact, in North Carolina, at this point, our system is shut down due to people in need of services, which has driven nonprofits and upcoming nonprofits to help the situation.
And the same thing is going on in Arizona, Mississippi, Louisiana,
New York,
Georgia,
Florida,
Chicago, California. And yeah, shout out to the Coleman family of Chicago, Illinois. We really thank you and appreciate you for listening to us. And we also like to thank you, our listeners, for listening to us tonight. And we just want to know right now, as we all take the time out and we are thinking about the stimulus and we're thinking about moral decisions, we make the moral decisions based on duties and consequences. When people are condemned for their moral decisions, it is largely because they do not recognize duties or because they miscalculated consequences to themselves and others. Most people calculate consequences in moral decisions unless those calculations are suppressed by passion or anger. Often people neglect to consider duties, especially when consequences to them are significant. Duties arrive typically from rights and justice considerations. Jury duty arises because people have the right to a trial by jury, or a moral intervention may be required in order to see that people are treated fairly in a situation. So what are your ideas about moral courage? Your parenting tips to promote it with kids? Or your favorite moral courage story, fact or nonfiction? What are your ideas about moral courage? Your parenting tips to promote it with kids? Or your favorite moral courage story, fact, fiction, or nonfiction? We love to hear from you at tcmissionspeak@gmail.com. Or you can visit us at our page at www.transitionalchangesmission.wordpress.com.
And yes, my people, please walk around with no prejudging of the next person. Even with this stimulus bill that was passed, there was arguments going on between the parties from what they say is about 7 months. A lot of people are upset with Mitch McConnell. A lot of people might be upset with Nancy Pelosi.
Oh, they're very upset if they're already doing graffiti outside of her and Mitch McConnell's houses.
Yes, they sure is. And that's why I brought this topic up, to try to calm people down and think. Because you do have to put yourself in their shoes. You might have a patriot of this government, Mitch McConnell. A lot of people support him.